Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts. I'm your host, Rudo, joined by AJ Hayfley. As we've talked about the forwards and defense, now it's time to talk about goaltending, arguably the most important thing in the sport when it comes to being successful and winning things. So, kind of important. Obviously, we know the immediate. Darcy Kuemper will be the expected starter for the Avs in the coming season. Realistically, AJ, what do you think they target with Kuemper as a game started number?
55.
You think that high? You don't think they try and shelter him a little bit with the injury history?
No.
Okay, you might be on the wrong mic again, unless your fan's just blown into it. Well, that fixed it.
Let's try that.
There you go. In any case, 55, so certainly the lion's share of the starts there. Obviously, in a perfect world, he would start 55, and then Francouz would start the rest with no need to go to a third goaltender. But, you know, you have to play injuries by ear. If they happen, they happen, and you deal with them as they come, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how they do divvy up the games. We've talked a lot over the last couple of days about how the Avs don't have the easiest schedule in the world compared to last year, where they got to play a bunch of bad teams 7 times. So maybe a little bit more management of the goaltender position, getting Kuemper against the better teams, things like that. Is that your expectation?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know how deep we can really get into breaking that down, because it's just going to depend on when they want goalies to play and all of that. So the other big question is, what can the Avs reasonably expect out of Pavel Francouz? Because obviously 2 years ago he had great numbers. It was all very good as a backup goaltender, but this is a guy who hasn't played a hockey game properly in what will be like 18 months.
Yeah, September of 2020.
Yep. So it's gonna be a bit of a tough spot. Well, or maybe not. I mean, for all I know, he could come in and shut out his first 3 games. But how do you solve these question marks? Can you solve these question marks as the Avs, or do you just have to battle through whatever you get at the start of the year?
Yeah, no, there's no way around it. There's no cheating injury questions. The only way that you can answer them is to just ice a hockey team.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. It's the same thing with Eric Johnson. It's the same thing with Ryan Murray.
True.
You know, they can't answer any of these questions. You just hope for the best. You just throw them out there and you say, all right, YOLO.
Yeah. The other side of just throwing them out there is there are 6 preseason games, obviously training camp for players to get adjusted, but this is a team that very clearly understood how to play in front of Philip Grubauer. They played the way Grubauer wanted them to play in front of him at the end of certainly his tenure here. That took a while when Grubauer first got here, right? The first 30, 40 games when there was Barley and Grubauer, the Grubauer starts felt a little bit shaky at times.
Yeah, there were some struggles when Grubauer first got here. There are a lot of adjustments. First-year goaltenders can be problematic. Mm-hmm. And with Darcy Kuemper only under contract for a year, how
much do you want to commit to that? Sure.
Well, it's a concern because, you know, we saw with Grubauer, you know, you see it regularly around the league. Guys, when they first get to new teams, they have to learn the defensive system. They have to adjust to a different goaltender coach that wants to stress different things and have them do things a little differently. They, you know, a lot of skaters, it's like, okay, you make a minor tweak to the systems here and there, but for goalies, they have to understand all those different systems, because that's okay. Well, we're trying to take away, defensively, our structure is set to take away this player, this pass, and so I know I can play more aggressively on this shot. I can, how they make their reads, how they read the ice is a large function of that is understanding how the team in front of them is expecting to be played. And that can take some time, that a lot harder to do in a 56 game season than an 82 game season. So you expect, I think that the Avs will probably be at their best this next season after the Olympic break, March and April.
Yep.
Should be when they're at their best. Their systems are locked in the most. Kuemper's made his adjustment. Their health questions are whatever they are at the time. They know what they're riding with going into the postseason. I think that's when they should be at their best, because with both Kuemper and Francouz, you have just how do they come back from not playing very much? Darcy Kuemper has only played like 50 games across the last 2 seasons.
Yep. Definitely going to have to find some sort of a rhythm there, no doubt about it. And I think you're spot on here, where whatever the first couple months of the season, as far as goaltending is concerned, will be whatever it is, and then hopefully things smooth out as the season goes on at that position.
Yeah, I mean, ideally they adjust immediately.
In a perfect world, sure, yeah.
Darcy Kuemper just rolls in and he's like, "Oh, I click with this group right away. I understand it. Hey, I'm not seeing 35 shots a game. I'm not seeing an abundance of high danger shots. Great, let's do this."
Yeah, that's the perfect world. And on Francouz's side, kind of the same thing. You're hoping for the best. 2 years ago, we know he got great goal support.
Great goal support.
Yeah, so that's kind of the other side of the goalie coin, right? If the team is scoring in front of him, it makes everybody's job that much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Maybe the offense can carry a little bit of the load, especially early in the season, and help their goaltenders out. But as things start to get nailed down, you're going to need your goalies to show up, particularly, especially once you get the playoffs, obviously. But
the other big part of this, though, is that these are both 31-year-old goalies going into contract years.
Yep.
There's no job security.
No doubt about it.
So when you have guys going into contract, you have to be weary of guys having career years when they're heading into free agency, because those are tough to repeat. And there's always that extra carrot for the player of, I have to be at my absolute best this year so I can secure the bag.
Yeah, get that payday.
I mean, will anybody be surprised at all if Philip Grubauer goes to Seattle and has kind of a meh first year?
He's got the contract locked up. We see it happen all the time, where the player takes a little bit of pressure off of himself because he's got that 6-year deal, that $5.9 million a year, and there isn't quite that extra little 0.1% or whatever you want to call it of motivation to really peak out your game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at the NHL level, 0.1% is the difference between everything and nothing, right? So
can be a pretty big difference, yeah.
So not uncommon to see it happen. Certainly going to be a motivating factor for both Kuemper and Francouz this year.
Yeah, I mean, Francouz is playing for different things, because pretty much assuming no career-threatening injuries for either guy, Francouz is playing for a future in the NHL altogether.
Yeah.
And Kuemper is playing for, like,
a starting job.
Well, in like
money pay, yeah.
He's 31 years old and he's made about $13 million as a goaltender. You know, he was a backup in Minnesota for a long time, an alum of both of our bays, the Houston Aeros and the Orlando Solar Bears.
Mm-hmm.
He really didn't get his first legitimate starting opportunity until 2018-19.
Even in Arizona, he was brought in to be a backup, and Ranta's injuries is what propelled him into proving that he can be a starter.
Yep. So, and then they just traded injuries. They just kept.
Yep, and then he couldn't stay healthy.
Hurt.
Yeah.
And
so this is, I mean, realistically, this is it. This is Kuemper's one chance to get one big contract out of his career.
It's certainly his best chance. Because, like, I don't want to say it's this one chance because, you know,
he signs a 1-year deal and, yeah, whatever.
He signs a 1-year deal and he goes and, like, you know, backs up Carter Hart in Philadelphia and Hart disappoints and the guy goes crazy and, you know, Kuemper is dominant and he gets a long-term deal somewhere else. Whatever. This is his best chance, though.
You only get so many kicks at the can, yeah.
He's 31 years old and he's playing behind what's expected to be a really, really good hockey team.
Could have played those numbers a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though, is that we saw what he did behind teams, and now he's going to be behind a really good one, and this is his chance to prove that it's for real.
Yep, he's got a chance.
So they should.
He's not going to have an insane workload as far as injury concerns. He's not going to have to overwork himself like maybe he would have in Arizona or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to bail them out.
At least not very often, to say the least.
And this is like going into this. Imagine had they not won the bidding war for Kuemper.
Yeah,
I don't know what goaltender they would have gone out and gotten, but
they're in a bad place if they didn't.
But I mean, they were going head to head with Edmonton for Darcy Kuemper, and as much as we didn't like the cost of the deal, you look at it and it's like, look, Edmonton is Edmonton better off having not paid that?
Probably not. Look, I think the reality of the cost is, yes, it was expensive, but also you got better at the position, assuming health. So the reality of the NHL, especially when the floor of talent that you're looking for as an organization as good as the Avs are right now, turns out that's going to cost a lot. It's just reality, especially for a starting position. So, and, you know, a lot of people have talked about how Timmins will be missed, and probably to a certain extent he will, but if Darcy Kuemper plays up to his ability, people are going to forget about Connor Timmins really quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cost, though, and that's like that's in the first round pick. Like, this is the first rounder that Sakic has moved.
Yep.
So, you know, he's been really remote. He didn't move a first rounder to get Devon Taves, but he did it for a goaltender because they absolutely had to have the guy. If they tried to cheap out on it, look, like, is anybody taking Edmonton's cup chances seriously with Mikko Koskinen, Alex Stalock, and Mike Smith?
Nope.
No. They need something really weird to happen in order for them to win a Stanley Cup, regardless of what happens in front of them. They have already set themselves up as an organization for failure. And even with the Avs paying an absolute insane price for Darcy Kuemper. And I say that and I stress that because you go and look at any high-profile goaltender trades over the last 10 years, they might have paid the most expensive price of any of those teams. And for a 31-year-old with 1 year left on his deal, like that, they paid an insane price for Darcy Kuemper. They need him
to be the man.
They need him to live up to that price tag. They absolutely. But the thing with Kuemper is you usually win trades where you get the best player in the deal.
It's not uncommon.
And for right now, I think that it's definitely going to be in their favor. They're better off with Darcy Kuemper than chasing whatever their plan B or C was.
Chat will get into the depth of the goaltender position in just a bit. I did see one question asking what would a Kuemper extension look like. The reality of that, if Kuemper plays well enough to where it would make sense for the Avs to extend him, it's very likely that he prices himself out of Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, you have a whole excuse me. The Avs have $28 million in cap space next offseason, which sounds like a lot of money. But they've got contracts for Burakovsky, Kadri, Nichushkin, and then all their depth guys as they do every year, and both goaltending positions.
And McKinnon coming the year after.
Yeah. Which the McKinnon deal really actually isn't, the math on it isn't very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's
because you just,
deal, right?
Yeah, you take EJ's money, his expiring deal, and you're done. But you just, I don't know who you're giving 8 years and $4 million per to, but it shouldn't be anybody.
Yeah, that would be a weird contract for anyone.
Yeah, the thing is that if you're Darcy Kuemper, why would you sign an extension with the Avs right now? The Avs would only be offering him a deal in the neighborhood of what he's already making, $4.5 to $5 million, somewhere in that range. They would only be offering that, and then he goes out and he has a great season. You know, I haven't picked to win the Vezina. Let's say he goes out and he does that. He wins the Vezina. He signs an extension.
Yeah, for all of the reasons we've already mentioned, this year makes all the sense in the world for Kuemper to bet on himself. Like, there's no reason for him to sign now when he could easily double his money, basically, by playing well this year.
Yeah, I mean, he could easily go into the market next year as the star goaltender in the free agency market. At 32 years old, and have a if he comes off of Vezina, he's getting more than the $6 million.
Yeah, the standard 6x6 that the league has fallen in love with for goalies right now. So
yeah,
you're probably looking closer at like a Fleury contract if he wins the Vezina. But
yeah, absolutely, you're getting into the 7-8, so it doesn't make any sense for Darcy Kuemper to sign a contract right now.
Yep.
And
yeah, to Chet's point, of course, the Avs have some risk here as well. It's a gamble that Kuemper is going to stay healthy.
Yeah. They want to, I mean, it's fair for the Avs to also see what exactly they have in this guy.
They also don't necessarily want to pay him for him to just break 20 games into the season.
Right. I mean, if you give him an extension right now and for some reason he decides, you make it worth his while, you give him a 5-year deal at $5.5 million per, sight unseen, and he goes out there in year one, plays 20 games and gets hurt the rest of the year, and then great, now his new contract gets to start.
Yep.
And you gave this guy a huge contract. You gave him the Robin Lehner contract for fun, basically.
Yep. So if we could see the future, we'd have more accurate answers on Kuemper, but the reality is the potential is there for it to be great. The potential is there for it to be a disaster.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep.
His play should determine how his next deal looks, and everybody should just let that happen.
Yep.
If they decide to jump the gun and they go for it, it's taking a big risk. Signing these guys sight unseen it's a big risk.
Look, as another goaltender in Avalanche history said, sometimes you have to put your balls on the table. And if you're doing that, your balls better look good. So hit up Manscaped to get 20% off with code DNVR. Yeah. Get the perfect package 4.0. Get the lawnmower 4.0. You make it high and tight, whatever you wanna get going on down there. Make it look good. It also works for your face. They got face shavers, they got breath mints, they got deodorant.
It also works for your face.
Yeah, the
make that high and tight too.
Why not? Keep it all together. Make it look good. All right. Your head's just a big ball, is it not? It's roundish. Think about it.
What is this conversation?
I don't even know.
God damn.
Use the code DNVR to get 20% off on Manscaped. If you get the perfect package, you get free shipping as well. And then hit up DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now is the best offer like they've ever done for new accounts. If you use code DNVR with DraftKings Sportsbook. Yeah, check out our new hats too, by the way. Our new hats are sick. The golf hat, mwah, it's beautiful.
It looks so good, but it's also just like I would never wear it.
All right, speak for yourself then.
But it looks great. Like both Z and I agree, the golf hat looks awesome. Neither one of us want to put it on our heads.
Well, you know what? If you win a little bit of money with DraftKings, you can easily afford to buy all of our hats together. Because right now, oh, look at that. Look at that. The hats. Yeah. New golf hat. Beautiful. The DNVR one with the logos is excellent as well.
I love that hat. I'm getting that hat when I get back.
There you go. $200. DNVR code DraftKings. They're just giving you $200. All you have to do is bet $1 on any of the opening games for the college football season. You don't even have to wait for the results. You don't even have to win. You just bet $1 on a college football game, and they just give you $200 right away. So do that. Go get $200 on a new account with code DNVR over at DraftKings. They're $200 to bet on whatever you want. If you want to bet more on college football, go for it. If you want to bet on other sports, go for it. If you're AJ and want to put it all on Kuemper winning the Vezina, go for it. Only DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See that DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. AJ, as we move into the Avalanche's organizational depth at the goaltending position, things start to get weird pretty quickly.
Yep.
So JoJo and Miska are still in the organization as it stands right now.
Fully expect them to be 1 and 2 in Loveland.
Yep. As particularly, they actively went out and extended JoJo. So you have to think he's the number 3 as far as behind Francouz.
Yeah. His success with the Avs last year should have him as the number 3 guy, as the top guy in Loveland to start the year.
Yep. I think that's a fairly reasonable expectation on the whole. So I don't really have any problems with that. He's a fine number 3. He can get the job done for the Avs. The Avs don't have anyone else in their organization today that you can trust to do that job, in my opinion. As you mentioned, it seems pretty straightforward to put Miska as the backup down, or I suppose up in Loveland from Denver. You get into a conversation there a little bit, right? Because you have to bring Justus Annunen into the conversation. One, not just that he's a higher-end goalie prospect as far as the Avs are concerned, but 2, the Utah Grizzlies, the Avs ECHL affiliate, play on international ice. So bringing Annunen into North America doesn't make the most sense in the world if he's just going to play on international ice anyway.
Yeah, it's a fair question. And it's really the biggest problem with having Utah as their affiliate.
Yep.
They just it doesn't make sense. Okay, you bring him over to North America and then he plays on international ice in Utah, but It's not going to be an easy transition for Trent Miner either. Playing on international ice for what would be the first time, you know.
And I mean, for what it's worth, like the Grizzlies road games would still be on North American ice.
Yeah.
But
And the other thing, though, is that the ECHL is
goaltender is the only position where if a guy goes down to the ECHL, it's not
their career isn't over. Yeah,
it's not like oh man, like this might be problematic. Like Philip Grubauer's in the ECHL at one point.
A lot of NHL goalies spend time in the ECHL. It's just the reality of a position that has 2 spots on every lineup. Like,
exactly, and it's a position where guys just have to play.
Yep,
and you know, I'm seeing. Yeah, Darcy Kuemper played in the ECHL.
Yeah, a lot of goalies do, except for the super high-end ones. A lot, especially ones coming out of major junior. Right, they play, you know, at half a season down there or something.
Yeah.
But a lot of them start there, and then they prove they can handle the pro game, and then they get promoted to the AHL and go from there. But in any case, especially the major junior kids, right, because with college goalies, you can wait a little bit longer on them. Maybe they're a little bit older, but
yeah,
when you're making decisions on, like, Trent Miner is a great example of a guy that they have to make a decision on as a 20-year-old goalie.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to drop that dude in the ECHL and see what he has at a pro level.
Yeah, and they're right now, you know, they're a little. They ran into an unexpected logjam. Because they were hoping that Miska was going to be a little more serviceable in the NHL. It didn't work out. He was fucking brutal. And they had to do something else. And then just given Johansson's success last year, I mean, why not bring him back?
An easy commit to a third goaltender there. The problem left there is Miska's just still sitting on his contract.
Right. Miska was given a 2-year deal, and then Miner and Annunen are there, and you're not going to buy Miska out and then just eat a cap hit that would otherwise be buried.
Yeah, you just bury him, yeah.
Yeah, that would be dumb business. Even with it being only it would be like $100,000 or something.
Yep.
Let's just see. Yeah, it'd be $100,000 cap hit.
So.
But that's a guaranteed cap hit. Like, it's not. Dude, they didn't need to move on from Hunter Miska so badly.
Correct.
They're fine. They're fine doing this with Annunen and Miner figuring it out this year. Their first year in pro hockey in North America. Although both guys got AHL games last year. Right, it's still just going to be. I mean, the Eagles, again, we've talked about the importance of the Eagles as a competitive
organization,
club every year. Although the playoff format this year has all of the teams in the Pacific Division making the postseason, no matter what.
Real hard for them to miss the postseason this year, yeah.
Yeah. Cool system, but whatever. I just don't think Annunen is going to be a big part of it to start the season.
Yeah,
the hype has always been on Annunen, but he didn't have a great year last year. It's really because he set that shutout record in Finland a couple of years ago, and everybody went crazy about it. And you know, it wasn't a very good season for him this last year, and he was just okay in his couple of AHL games. And like, no need to have sky high expectations for those first few games. Same thing if he starts in the ECHL, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I mean, you'd prefer that he would have the spot on the AHL team over Miska, but I don't think that's realistic.
So that's exactly the word I wanted to use. What is a realistic trajectory for this year for Annunen? Starting the ECHL,
at
the end of the season, hopefully he's pushing for the starting job on the AHL team, or
I don't think he'll push Johansson unless something real bad happens, and then injuries. We don't know how injuries will play.
Yeah, you can.
Injuries always reshape this picture as we go on, and we don't know.
Yeah.
But ideally, he would do fine with the Grizzlies, and he would get enough AHL looks where they said, okay, we want to see this guy here. Let's swap him out with Miska.
Sure.
And then he and Miska just changed jobs. Yep. Miska with the Grizzlies and
then with the Eagles.
Annan with the Eagles in the second half of the year, and Annan just works his way up. Just keeps hacking his way through the organization that way. And then we'll see by the end of the year. I don't know how realistic it is to think that he would be their starting goalie by the end of the season.
Okay. Yeah, and based on that trajectory you're talking about, you're probably still 2 years away at least from seeing this kid in the NHL.
Yeah, and then next year Annan finishes out his ELC as like either the guy or at least a platoon guy going 50-50.
For the Eagles,
and then starts to get the cups of coffee in the NHL.
Yep. So,
when do we get access to players, buddy? I'd love to answer that question. I would love to answer that question. We haven't had access to players for over a year, so
the day they give us access, we'll be on it. Don't worry about it. But
100%. As soon as they give us access back to players, and we're allowed to bring players back onto the show, well, just to be honest with you guys, our hope is that we build a good enough relationship with some of the guys that we get them down to the bar in the studio,
to do in-person stuff.
Yeah, to do some in-person interviews that are a little bit longer, and not just over StreamYard or Zoom or whatever. But guys that actually come and sit down in the bar and hang out for a little bit. We do 45-minute. We do an entire pod with them, just chatting with them. Yep. That's where we want things to get to when player access is a thing again. But for right now,
we only get access when they say we get access, basically. Yeah.
Yep. It's only hopes and dreams right now. We did the interview with Connor Timmins at the beginning of
2019
training camp that one time, and then we were told it was a competitive disadvantage for our outlet that we had pod and not everybody else did. So they didn't want players coming on the pod anymore. And then everybody else got a pod, and they were like, okay, well, now the pandemic, so sorry. So we'll see.
Yeah. It'll happen someday. It's just a matter of when and how. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The other conversation here is Trent Miner.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't really have any expectations for a kid who was a 7th rounder. But he's got his ELC. He's got a shot to prove something in the ECHL to start. I don't see any world where, he would have to play out of his mind to even compete for an AHL job this year, realistically. But
pretty interesting career arc for Trent Miner, because he was a guy when he was drafted in the WHL. He was following behind David Tendek, and he was really well liked and really highly sought after in the WHL. He was first round pick.
Yep.
And then the Giants just kind of waited on him and were like, okay.
In his D+1, he never really took the reins of that team in goal.
Yeah, it was the year before, Byron's draft year.
Yep.
And they were on the same Vancouver Giants team, and he split the net with Tendek, and Miner played exceptionally well.
Yep.
Except he struggled a bit in the postseason, and obviously their season ended in heartbreak in the game 7 overtime loss.
Conference finals.
Of the WHL final, and that's brutal, man. And then the next year, they were fully expecting Trent Miner to take a step forward, and
he just didn't. Yeah,
he didn't. He really, and that was the problem, is he just didn't. And then the pandemic kind of kicked in, and the Giants as a team lost a lot of talent to pro hockey.
Yep.
And then he kind of had the job to himself, and he was insanely good.
Yeah, he pitched like 3 shutouts in a row or something.
Yeah, insanely good.
And then he got some AHL time too, and looked solid enough.
Yeah, considering there were no expectations for him, he had some good showings in the AHL where it was like, hey, this dude's battling here.
Yep.
And I think those showings in the AHL, and then obviously the strength of his WHL season, I don't think that the Avs were planning on giving him a deal. Just because his D+1, his D+1 was just so mediocre.
Yep.
And then they were like, look, let's give this kid a shot.
He's played too good this year, yeah.
We've got years to wait on him. He's got a 3-year deal. He's 20 years old. He doesn't have great measurables. Like 6'1", 190 pounds is not like a guy where you're like, oh my god.
You're not jazzed about that in goal for sure.
Yeah, like you're like, okay, you're about average size. But he is a guy that is on the upward trajectory. Just given the year that he had, you have to feel good. You're excited about it, but as with all goaltenders, we'll see how he does when he gets into the next step. You know, we've seen both Spencer Martin and Adam Warner look really, really good in the AHL for extended stretches in the AHL, and then just run into the wall. They just don't. They don't take the next step there.
The consistency started to falter for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, we say it on every show we talk about goalies, but there's a lot of voodoo there, man. You never really know what you're going to get. You don't want to put yourself in a place where you end up with a Jordan Binnington contract on a guy that was hot for 2 months.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very careful.
Long way from that.
Obviously, you're not close, but I'm just using him as an example of a goaltender playing really good for 2, 3, 4 months doesn't necessarily mean anything about the trajectory of their career.
Yeah, I think the better example is probably a guy like Andrew Hammond.
Yeah, sure. His 23 game streak.
Yeah, he had the Hamburglar experience in Ottawa, and he never
was barely an NHL goalie for the rest of his career after that. Yeah,
yeah, he's pretty consistently been an AHL guy from then on, and he had the one very brief and fun stint in Colorado.
Yep. He did have Game 5. He'll always have Game 5. But in any case, we are brought to you by Green Mountain Dental Group. Hit them up, get your teeth cleaned, get a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, and you can get yourself a free Sonicare toothbrush to boot. They're great. Everyone who switches says they do a great job, and it's some of the best dental work that they've ever gotten. So be sure to check them out today and get yourself that free Sonicare toothbrush. Get your teeth looking clean. Get your teeth looking nice. It's good stuff there. And then check out Chevalier Mortgage with both Mike and Virginia. They've been doing it here for a long time now, and Mike is a certified financial planner, so they have you covered in every facet of a home loan, not just a great rate, but exactly how it fits into you and your finances. Specifically, you can find them at dnvrmortgage.com. Go over there, get yourself a free consultation, and also get hooked up with a chance to win some free DNVR merch as well. Again, that's dnvrmortgage.com, or you can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. Then check out Strava Craft Coffee as well. You can get their cold brew down at the DNVR bar, or you can get 25% off your order when you use code DNVR25, your first order at StravaCraftCoffee.com. CBD-infused coffee, delicious stuff, and it helps with joint pain, other aches and pains, stuff like that as well. So if you need a little bit of energy and a little bit of pain relief, they got you covered. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Rudo and AJ, wrapping up our goalie talk a little bit here. The reality is, at the end of this season, regardless of what happens, the Avs are going to have a whole bunch more decisions to make at the goaltender position.
Yeah, pretty. What is it? Their top 4 goaltenders are all expiring.
Yep. If you include JoJo and Miska, all 4 of them will be UFAs. Miska might still be an arm. No, I think he's a UFA too at the end of this.
No, they're both RFAs.
Oh,
Miska and JoJo both still RFA.
Decisions to be made still there then on whether they want to keep him in the org or not.
Yeah. And then I think Miska's pretty easy to let go. And then JoJo, it's like, well, we'll just see. We really should just call him Yo-Yo.
Yeah, I mean, if you're pronouncing it correctly, it would be Yo-Yo, but
it's always just funny to me that it's like, oh, we call him JoJo, and then it's like his name is Jonas Johansson.
Yeah, but then you can't have bizarre adventures unless you call him JoJo. So,
all right, fair enough. Fair enough. I tell you, the first shot of every game was a bizarre adventure last year.
True. That is very true.
This is an adventure I'm looking forward to not having to go through this year.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Annunen was taken with a different pick.
Yeah,
the Avs traded down out of the second
traded
round.
back, and they took Annunen and Ranta, I believe.
Yeah, the Hammond contract pick was Matt Steinberg.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, as always, anything can happen at the goaltender position, but the Avs for 1 year are betting on their horse of Kuemper to stay healthy. And everything below that the chips kind of will fall where they may.
Yeah.
To a certain extent for Colorado. So play it by ear, and we'll keep you updated when things do inevitably happen. But
yeah, the hard part is that they have a 3rd round pick. In the first 4 rounds of the 2022 draft, they have a single 3rd round pick.
Yeah. It's not much. So
they're not going to be able to
replenish very well. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to. I mean, they've already got such a small reserve list as it is. They've also already traded away a 4th round pick in 2023 and kind of a 3rd round pick in 2024. That's the conditional.
Yeah, they either get that one back or they don't care because they won a cup.
Yeah. They either win a cup with Kuemper in net this year or they get that pick back. So. They might have access to that one again in the future, but they've gone really heavy into trading the picks already.
Yeah. All right. I suppose we would be remiss to do a goalie show and not mention the most mysterious man in the world, Shamil Shmakov, who is technically still part of the organization.
Yeah.
So he exists. We mentioned him. It's officially a goalie show now.
He's their only goaltender on their reserve list, if I recall correctly.
You are correct, yes.
And they only have his rights until next summer.
Yep. He's gone June 1st.
Yeah. And just going to go ahead and assume that he's not getting a deal.
I think that's probably a safe assumption. But you never know.
I'm still under the theory that he was only taken because Alan Heppel really wanted to say Shamil Shmakov on the draft floor.
I mean, it's about as good a reason as the Avs taking Taylor McCarr this year. So
true. How much better would have been had Taylor McCarr been a goaltender?
Oh yeah, just to throw him on the goalie list.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find the long lost younger McCarr brother than Taylor.
Rusty.
Playing in net. Have all your positions covered with the McCarr family. All right. In any case, any final thoughts, AJ, on Avs goaltenders here?
I'm so glad we're done with this. We don't have to talk about goalies again.
Goaltending part of the offseason over.
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
Check.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Maybe we'll have Jeremy back on or someone closer to the start of the season to talk goaltenders better than we can. But until then, you won't hear much goalieing out of us.
Yeah. Darcy Kuemper for Vezina. DraftKings bet. After that, I don't have anything to say about goaltending until they start having pucks hit them.
Someone in chat was saying Kuemper's plus 1,600 for the Vezina. So good money right there.
That actually feels like a quality bet.
Yeah. So check that one out. We're going to get out of here for the day. Thank you so much for watching, listening, chat, however you consume the podcast. We appreciate all of you. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video here on YouTube. That does a bunch for us. We will be back tomorrow, probably looking at the Avs prospect pool as a whole, maybe something else. I don't know. We're playing it by ear a little bit. But
oh, yeah, we have a show tomorrow.
Yep. Tomorrow's Friday.
I forgot.
We hope to see you all in the chat once again. Until then, we will talk to you later.